Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today, I have a very special video for everybody. And I know that I say that a lot, and I even know that I say having a special video, I say a lot. But this time, I actually mean that this is a very special video because this is going to be a first for my channel. And the first is going to be that this is going to be a first top 10 list. Now, hear me out before everybody jumps off the ship here. This is going to be a all-time favorite top 10 list, so it's going to be very special. And I'm not saying these are the best 10 fragrances in the history of fragrance. I'm saying that these are the 10 fragrances that I enjoy wearing the most. Now, I want you to know that this was very hard for me. So basically what I did is I was talking to Rich Mitch this morning, and I came up with this idea that, hey, I haven't done a top 10 favorite list yet. And he actually said, why don't you wait till you have more subscribers? And I thought, you know what, it would be cool to put it out there, and then maybe next year I could rank them. So I'm going to leave them unranked. I'm just going to give you my top 10. And what I did is I just picked 10 that came to mind, okay? Top 10 instantly that came to my mind. I tried not to overthink it. I have some honorable mentions that I'm going to show you, so you're going to get a lot out of this. And, you know, my thought process with doing these videos is that obviously I can't force you to smell a fragrance you've never smelled before through YouTube or through a video. Sometimes I can describe it. Sometimes I probably do a pretty piss poor job of describing these fragrances. But from my experience, you can at least learn about some of the fragrances that I have smelled and that I really fell in love with. And that's my hope, that you'll kind of discover these, you'll explore them. Some of them, if you've watched my channel, you will know. Some of them you might have known that I loved them, but maybe not that I would have put them in my top 10, you know, favorite all time. Now, again, this is my personal top 10 to wear. So there are fragrances, and I'll give you a couple examples as we go on, where I will show you a fragrance, and I'll say, obviously, this is a better fragrance if you're looking at fragrance history or fragrance lore or when it was created or what it meant to the fragrance industry. But for me, I like wearing this one, for example. Now, I'm going to go through some honorable mentions, and so I put the list together, and then obviously I went, oh my God, how could you leave this out? But it's a top 10 list when you have 600 fragrances. Some are going to get left out. Some of these might surprise you that they got left out. Some of them might surprise you that they're even included in the ones that barely got left out. But again, I have to be true to myself, and I have to be 100% honest with you. And even if you guys don't agree or disagree, or even if it's not what you expect to hear, I feel like I have to, you know, be true to myself and tell you guys 100% my honest feeling. And that's my goal with this channel, is to always stay honest and, you know, keep my reputation 100% intact. Again, all these fragrances are purchased with my money. There are no free bottles given to me by brands. These are my own thoughts, my own conclusions over years and years of loving and wearing fragrances. So let's start with the honorable mentions first, okay? So we're going to do honorable mentions first. And so the first one that I want to do is a fragrance from Lagerfeld, and it's called Lagerfeld Classic. Okay, so it's now called Lagerfeld Cologne, by the way. This came out in 1978. And I was very sad that this got left off of the list, to be honest with you. This is this beautiful ambery, masculine, very powdery. It's almost like a big powdered orange in a way, because it has this orange, bright, ambery feel to it all. But it has tobacco. It is very manly, even though it's powdery. It's so late 70s. I love older fragrances. It has big oak moss, especially in the vintage. This is the vintage when it says Lagerfeld Cologne. If you can find this bottle, grab it, because this has the amped up oak moss, which makes it even more masculine. It has a big dose of orris to make it powdery. And some of the most beautiful aldehydes in the top, those 70s aldehydes that you got from the old school masculines of the day. So this got left out, unfortunately. Another one that got left out, to my dismay, is Van Cleef & Arpels Pour Homme. Now, again, you may say that's not one of the greatest fragrances of all time, but for me, it's one of my favorite fragrances of all time to wear. I love wearing this fragrance. This fragrance basically is this big, earthy, masculine rose with a big dose of leather and a big dose of carnation. I'm sorry, there is carnation in this, but a big dose of castoreum. So even though castoreum isn't listed in the notes, I get a huge castoreum accord out of this, especially the older bottles. Apparently the newer bottles were crap, and there is ways to tell, but this is a real old bottle. This came from Anuj, Enchanté Perfumes. Thank you, Anuj, as always. Let's see if I can get you guys to see this. There we go. A little light in the back messes things up. Amazing fragrance. Very sad this did not make the list. If it was a top 20 list instead of top 10, it would be here. And then another one I left out, which is one of the all-time greats. If you ever watch some of the old school channels, like from Greggy Boy, this was his favorite fragrance of all time. This is Fahrenheit. And this is a vintage 1996 bottle, if I'm not mistaken. You can see the 6 there at the front indicating the year and the 5-digit batch code and the address. All that stuff is giveaway for what year this is. This is 96. Amazing masculine. You know, one of the best of all time. One of the greatest violet leaf accords of all time, in my opinion. But there's so much more going on here. There's leather. They even have a beautiful honeysuckle, this white flower, lily of the valley thing going on, but it just gets swallowed up by this masculine gasoline accord, which I love wearing. I love wearing this fragrance. I'm very sad that it didn't make my top 10 of all time list, but you know, again, you got to draw a line somewhere, but this is right there at that line. I could easily almost replace 1 or 2 of these, and, you know, depending on the coin flip, but today it finds itself on the outside. Another that finds itself on the outside that's going to leave Rich Mitch crying is Balenciaga Pour Homme. I can't believe I left this out either. I love this fragrance so much. This is one of my favorite Fougere fragrances. It also apparently was supposed to have an oud accord to some people. There's no oud listed. There is stuff like Yugoslavian oak moss. There's big patchouli. One of the most interesting uses of patchouli that you will find. And it's so masculine. The cinnamon in this is out of this world too. It's like cinnamon from Mars. It is unbelievable. And there's honey, which I love honey. My scent of the day is a honey, one of the greatest honey fragrances of all time. That'll come up during our top 10. But this is, you know, this gave me some serious pause that I was leaving this out. And there was one in particular that I was waffling on. I'll get to it, but I said, you know what? I'm not going to overcomplicate things. I'm going to leave the 10 that I chose, just instant split-second decision, and go with it. And then another fragrance from the 80s that got left out that, you know, I have backup bottles of a lot of these. I have a backup bottle of, actually every single one I've shown you so far I have a backup bottle of, and I have a backup bottle of this. This is Leonard Pour Homme from the year 1980. This is also a beautiful castoreum leather, just like this. These two are brothers in arms. Van Cleef & Arpels came out a few years earlier, but Leonard Pour Homme, this is a 25 ml bottle. I wish I had 100 ml, but these little 25 mls will hold me over, and this juice just blew me away. I'm glad I have a backup of this. Ron Winograd, who also did Lagerfeld cologne, and he did fragrances like Furio by Bogart, which also deserve the love, if you will. He doesn't have many on his resume, but boy, the fragrances he has to me are absolute bangers, and sad to see them left off the list. And then another one which many might not consider a masterpiece, but to me it is. And I love wearing this fragrance. I find so much interesting. Oh God. I find so much interesting with this fragrance. It's Dior Homme 2005 version with the silver atomizer, the silver stem, I should say. And this is an Olivier Polge creation, not Francois Demachy, but this is just so complex, so nuanced. I love wearing this. The iris in this, I don't care what people say. Some people say, oh, it's a cheap iris base that they use, and Prada uses it, and Valentino Uomo uses it. I don't care. The way that it's used here just is one of my favorite takes on iris. I love wearing this fragrance, and the fact that it got left out of the top 10 also gives me some serious pause. But I wanted to give it an honorary mention. And then one that's going to surprise you. This is an oud fragrance. There's no oud fragrances in the top 10. But this is an oud, and it's not the oud you would think. I've been hyping up Oud Maximus. I think that's the best real oud by Bortnikov, but I don't love, I think if you're going to say, what is your favorite real oud fragrance? It's not the night. It's not Dawn, it's not the Moon. My favorite real oud fragrance is Oud Maximus, but I wouldn't put it in my top 10 favorites to wear, but this almost did make the list. This is Promise. There's something about Promise that tickles me in a way that Oud Maximus doesn't. Even if this isn't real oud, I'm sure Estee Lauder says that there is real oud in this, and maybe there's a little drop. But it's just the way Dominique Ropion blended this. This is the cheapest of the Desert Gems, and boy, this almost made it too in the top 10. And again, this is not the top 10 best fragrances of all time. This is the top 10 fragrances I enjoy wearing. And Promise is really climbing the charts for me. This is the only one I went out and bought a full bottle of. I have decants of all of them. None of the other ones are full bottle worthy to me. Okay, and then we're going to go to a fragrance from Thierry Mugler called Amen. I've got a backup of this as well. And this is the first gourmand for men, if you will. It has a lot of edible notes. It has mint, patchouli, honey, caramel, milk. There's fruity notes at the top. There's coffee, but it's the patchouli. This is supposed to be like a rough and tumble fragrance, and the new versions are crap. They are, they're very light. They don't last as long, the Mugler versions. If you can get the Thierry Mugler version, this is the one that you want to get. And even better, mine says Angel Men right there at the top right before it switched to Amen. So the older bottle you can get, the better, because this has been reformulated to death. But in its prime, boy, this is I love wearing this fragrance. It is one of the best designers of all time. It's a shame L'Oreal is playing with the formula, if you will. Actually, I think this is the only fragrance left from this Amen line. All the other flankers I don't think you can buy anymore. I don't think you can get Pure Malt or Pure Havane or Pure Coffee or any of that. I think it's all basically gone, except for this, which is a shame because people love these fragrances. So I think L'Oreal's making a huge mistake there, but what can you say? Okay, now another one that I'm gonna say really gave me pause, if you will, and that's a fragrance called Lapidus Pour Homme. This is a 1987 release. This is a vintage splash. They don't make the splash bottles anymore, but this is back when it was only a couple ingredients listed on the box. And this is also this this Animalic Honey. There's so much going on with this fragrance, honestly, is why it's so hard to describe. There's tobacco, there's pineapple in the top, not a Ventus pineapple, but pineapple nonetheless from the 80s. There's pine. Pine was big in the 1980s, 70s, and 80s, and there's incense, there's patchouli, there's oak moss, there's artemisia. I mean, you name a note, it's almost in here, and it just makes for this very masculine DNA that I love. Very similar, you know, DNA to my scent of the day, but I think I like my scent of the day a little bit more. It just, you know, sometimes when you know, you just know. When you put something on and it just, it's you through and through. I love wearing this fragrance, but it didn't make the top 10 because of another fragrance that I will tell you about here in a minute. And then the only amouage that got close in my mind to being in the top 10 is Jubilation 25 by Bertrand Douchefour. And this is a masterpiece. I couldn't put it in the top 10 though, because even though I feel like it's a masterpiece, I feel like it's just maybe one step down from something like some of the ones listed on this list. Even when I wear it, I love it to death, but I just don't think it's at that mountaintop level. It's maybe one step away, which, you know, for a fragrance like this, I mean, we're really splitting hairs here. You know, some people might prefer wearing this versus something I put in the top 10. I just picked the ones that I personally like the best, and this just got left out. Another Bertrand Douchefour that might surprise people, but would be very high on my list is Chiffre Palatine. This is a 30 ml decant that I have. Look at the color of that juice. Chiffre Palatine is wow. This is one that, again, nearly made the top 10 just because I love wearing this so much. You guys know my love of Chiffres. By far the best MDCI fragrance I've ever gotten my nose on. You know, I wish I had a full bottle of this, but 30 ml will serve me well. But this is this, almost like an oriental Chiffre, but it has so much going on. There's galbanum, there's iris, there's plum, there's castoreum, there's balsams, there's immortelle, there's leather, there's, I mean, there's so much. And then there's that classic lavender sage running down the middle. It's almost like a blend of all these different types of fragrances that if any other perfumer did would never work. But Bertrand Douchefour just knocked this one out of the park. If there was a top 20, it would be there for me. And then I want to show you a fragrance that, excuse me, I got to bend down to get it here because it's on the floor. Okay, so it is Eau de Hermes. And I can't believe I'm leaving this out. This is Edmund Rudnitska's best. So the best perfumer's best work, in my opinion, didn't make the top 10 because I love wearing this fragrance for what it is. I love the cumin and the leather that you get in this. I love the complexity, but like I said, sometimes when you're really wearing something and it really hits home to you, you just instantly know. And this, again, right there, it could easily be swapped out for one of these. But it wasn't something that instantly popped into my mind, so it got left out. But Eau de Hermes deserves an honorable mention. And then a new fragrance, or newer fragrance, we will say, that some people that I really respect say best release of the last, 20, 25 years, stuff like that. It's a Chanel. And it's a fragrance called Le Lion. Now, this is a 75 ml bottle. One of the only times I ever regret not buying a bigger bottle. I wish I would have bought the 200 ml of this, because this is the best labdanum fragrance ever, period. End of story. It's better than Roja's $3,500 Hot Luxe fragrance as far as labdanum goes, in my opinion. It's a better fragrance than that fragrance anyways. But Le Lion by Chanel. Wish I had the 200 ml bottle. I can't put it on my all-time favorites because I just can't kick some of these other ones out. But boy, this is all-time worthy juice right here. And very few people disagree with that statement. It's an amazing fragrance. There are some fragrance connoisseurs that don't care for Le Lion as much, but they shall remain nameless. And then we will go on to Jules, or Yule, if you want to be proper. I had to leave this one out. I also had to leave Jean Martel's other creation, Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, out. Not because they're not great creations, but because they are. And I enjoy wearing them. Paco Rabanne Pour Homme has a special place in my heart because it's my father's signature scent. And this is really the only other hit that he had. He didn't make many stuff either, like Ron Winograd. And Jules just missed out on the top 10. And then one that is going to surprise some people, and I was wearing this fragrance in 2013, 14, before the hype really got crazy, but honestly, I love this fragrance still, even though I don't wear it as much. I only have older bottles. I know the new formulation sucks, but that's Creed Aventus. Aventus got more hype than any fragrance I've ever seen, ever. You know, people that don't even know fragrance were talking to me about Creed Aventus. And I'm glad that Jean-Christophe Herault is finally getting his credit for creating this. And, you know, I would love to see Fragrantica updated from Irwin and Olivier Creed to Jean-Christophe Herault. But, you know, this is a Chiffre. You know my love of Chiffres. But this takes this fruity pineapple and blackcurrant and apple and mixes it with birch and oak moss and ambergris. And back when the ingredients were good, this is a 2014 bottle. Look how much I use. I've used this whole bottle. Now I've got 3 backups, a 15, a 16, and a 17 bottle. But, you know, this might surprise some people that this is close to the top 10 for me. But like I said, I got to be honest. I like this fragrance. I think it's a good fragrance. Way overhyped, but for me, it just works. Okay, now let's get to the real top 10. We're going to start with my scent of the day. Boss number 1, 1985. Here, let me spray some on. This is just me in a nutshell. Look at the sheen. Oh man, I love this stuff. The honey in this is done in a way that, you know, it opens with the sharp. Fragrantica says aromatic fougere. I don't know if I agree with that. This is a Pierre Wargnein creation, and it starts sharp in your face, you know, almost like Chris from Scentland says it's like a men's restroom, like a pissy men's restroom vibe. And I don't get the men's restroom, but what I get is this. It's almost like if you took this green Artemisia note but amped it up to an 11 and just added the absolute pissiest Animalic Honey you could and just combined it together. And but there's so much more going on. There's tobacco, there's orris. This is an older bottle, back when they didn't even have a you know, barcode on it. Someone actually wrote the price on here. And I have a bottle. If you ever find a bottle that doesn't say number 1 on it, it's an older bottle. This one does. I have a backup that doesn't say number 1. Thank you, Anuj. Because this is backup bottle worthy for me. It's just, it is, you know, it's powerful. It's commanding. It's to me, it's masculine. I was reading some Fragrantica reviews, and I was a little surprised to see some women chiming in saying, I love this fragrance, I love this juice, it's unisex. I wouldn't have said that prior to reading those reviews, but I don't think fragrance has a sex, so if women want to wear this, you absolutely could, but I see this as a well-dressed, well-groomed gentleman who is in complete control of all of the details of his life. You know, he knows who he is, he knows what he is, he knows his goals, he knows his family, he knows who he has to take care of. It gives off that very in control, powerful vibe, if you will. It's a powerful fragrance, both in projection, strength. You have to be sure of yourself to wear this. If you wear this and you're timid, you're going to get eaten alive, because this stuff is beast mode. Projection, longevity. This is a, let's see, it's 2 o'clock. So this is a 7-hour dry down. And, you know, it is, it's something that I would highly recommend to all the people who are interested in just beast mode, projection, longevity, all that good stuff. You know, if you're into that scene, I'm not. I don't care. I'll reapply. But if you're looking for beast mode scent, if you're looking for something that is really going to project, these old 80 fragrances will definitely do that. Just watch your sprays. I spray it on the skin. If you spray this on the clothes, people will smell you a mile away. You know, you'll be killing pigeons walking down the street. It is serious juice. But boss number one, you know, if you're a young kid and all you know is, let's say, the scent Private Accord or whatever it may be, you have to know where Boss fragrances started. This is to me, I had to start with this one. This kind of gave me the idea of wearing this today because I'm going to try to wear more of my all-time favorites, and that's why I decided to do this video. So Boss number one of my favorite fragrances of all time. I'm going to keep saying that even though, you know, all of these listed on this list are my favorite fragrances of all time. The next one, I'm showing you number two because I want to use this as an example. So the fragrance is Diaghilev, okay? This is a Chiffre, Roja Dove, very expensive, ridiculously expensive. A lot of people say it's not worth the price. It's it's overhyped. It's this, it's that. The one in the industry that people would probably mention is Mitsuko. Okay, it's like, this is almost like Mitsuko mixed with Rocha's Femme. And while I love Mitsuko, and if I was just saying most important fragrance, or, you know, the fragrance that meant the most to the fragrance world, it would be this, because this is one of the most important Chiffre fragrances of all time. It has that, it's so good. It is an amazing fragrance. There's no doubt about it. It's hard to, you know, say that this takes a back seat to Diaghilev, but for whatever reason, you know, this has this peach note that is this nectarine peach note that's very prominent. And it's a very complex fragrance in and of itself. In fact, Luca Turin highly disagrees with me. He says that Diaghilev is half of Mitsuko at 10 times the price. That's his quote on Diaghilev. Now, for me, Diaghilev moves me in a way that Mitsuko doesn't. And that's why it's on this list. So it's not the better fragrance, but it's the better fragrance, in my opinion, when I go to wear something, because this just does something to me. And I don't know if it's Roja's amped up Animalics, which he uses beautifully here. I would love to know who the perfumer is on Diaghilev. And I think this is an older bottle because you can tell the new ones actually say Roja here, not his signature, but it says Roja in writing, just regular block letters, Roja Parfum. So here it's his signature. So this is a partial I bought years ago, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, whatever it was. And the thing that gets me is how bright this fragrance is. It is a bright Chiffre, but at the same time, what it does is it takes these dirty notes that would usually make something very, very dark and hard to wear, and it just turns it into this almost orgasmic experience for me, because every time I wear this, and there is something very sexual with this fragrance, there's no doubt about it. This is a very overtly sexual fragrance. They don't try to hide it. It starts with huge cumin. It almost has this feel of being in a room that's been closed. There's no AC going. It's 90 degrees in there, and two people have been making love, and the sheets are wet, and your bodies are sweating, and, you know, it's mixing with the warm air. It has that vibe to it. But this just moves me in a way that Mitsuko doesn't. As much as I love Mitsuko, it's a little bit cleaner. It's easy to wear. Is this worth $1,000 for 100 ml? Well, that's up to you. Price is subjective. For me, I think this is one of the few Rojas that is actually worth the outrageous price, because I've never seen a fragrance do what this does to me. I mean, this, even if I just take the cap and smell it, I don't even have to spray it on. I can just take the cap and smell it, and I swear the particles are in my nostrils for an hour. I mean, it's very powerful stuff as well. But it develops, I mean, this is a 16-hour fragrance, basically. And so Diaghilev had to be in this list. Probably one of the more controversial picks for an all-time top 10. But again, I have to be honest with myself. And right now, Diaghilev is top 10 material for me. The next one is from 1974. It's also a pissy honey, like Boss Number 1. But the patchouli is amped up big time on this. And this is Givenchy Gentleman from 1974. Now, I have a backup bottle of this that's a spray. So I have a splash and I have a spray. And the patchouli in this is out of this world. There's this very animalic civet. You still get the pissy honey, but this is one of my favorite patchouli fragrances of all time. And it is also very, very masculine. These older bottles have the oak moss really turned up. And this is a fragrance that, very similar to Boss Number 1, this really announces your presence. I mean, if you walked into a room wearing either of these, you know, people are either they're gonna look at you and think you're the boss, or they're gonna look at you to wonder what in the world you're wearing, because this is not Bleu de Chanel. This is not Sauvage. It's not Eros. You know, this is something that maybe they used to smell on their fathers or grandfathers, but it has this, again, this powerful feel, this vibe of in control. You know, back when men did the work and they were head of the family and they paid the bills and the women stayed home, kind of thing. That's what this kind of reminds me of. It reminds me of a head of the family who, you know, makes the big decisions. The buck stops with him, so to speak. And I say him, not him or her, because to me, these are straight up masculine fragrances. I mean, a woman could wear them, and obviously women are wearing these now as the gender in perfume has kind of gone away and everything is considered unisex, and women are scouring old men's fragrances just like we're scouring old women's fragrances. And there's a woman fragrance coming up in my top 10, and I left Balenciaga Pour Homme out because of it. But I just can't get around the fact that this is, to me, these type of fragrances just reek of masculinity, probably because the associations to the time, you know, and that is just very hard for me to shake. It's easier for me to shake some of these women fragrances on a man than it is to shake, I think, this on a woman. For whatever reason, in my head, it's just a little bit tougher to imagine. But no matter what gender you are or what sex, this is a beautiful composition. If you can take the animalic portion, it's heavy, it's strong, it's a straight, no holds barred fragrance, basically. Take no prisoners. This is just out and out. I'm gonna greet the world, and I'm either gonna win or I'm gonna die trying, kind of thing. And Givenchy Gentleman has to be on this list for me. Another has to be on the list for me. And I've got a backup bottle of this as well. I have two backup bottles because this is the older formulation. You can see right there in the shaker bottle, looks like you're gonna make someone a cocktail. And this is the newer one. This is the one I prefer. This is Bel Ami. And the reason that I prefer the newer one is, so this came out in 1986. This is my favorite leather of all time. And Jean-Claude Elena, I think, redid this one. He was the nose that redid the Bel Ami in this formulation. He was the in-house perfumer at that time. This is the original. Jean-Louis Suizac made this perfume. And it's all about This is all about leather. Bel Ami means good friend, but it was I think it was the name of a yacht of one of the famous writers, great American authors of old, if you will. And this is all about this cardamom and aromatics like sage, mixing with patchouli and old school carnation. It's a little bit powdery because it has orris root in it, which I'm learning that a lot of the leathers that I love have orris in it. This has a big orris accord along with a carrot note, which is also, carrot seeds can also be powdery. So I'm learning that I really like that powderiness with the leather. But here it's just so masculine. This is another one that I would think most women would not want to smell like this, because this smells like a man from a bygone era, which I absolutely love. I don't like the bubblegum, caramel. Although I said I like caramel and amen, that's a little different. The modern caramel synthetics, let's say. I'm not a big fan of the bubblegummy, ultra sweet. That's just not my thing. I'd much rather wear something like Bel Ami. And every time I smell this, that's what I do. I mean, literally, it's something I want to wear all the time. It's almost never cold enough in Texas to wear it, but I don't care. I wear it anyways, and absolutely in my top 10. Now, the one that I was waffling between this and Balenciaga Pour Homme, and I ended up going with this because I thought about it first. And I thought it should be here, and it should. I mean, this is one of the greatest compositions of all time. This is a woman-targeted release in the 70s, but I love wearing this fragrance. I feel so at home wearing this fragrance. I feel so comfortable, and that's Opium. All right, now this is the EDT. I also have the Secret de Parfum, which is also beautiful and could be included as a side-by-side in this list, either or. They're both gorgeous. I told Rich Mitch when he found the Secret de Parfum that he made the best discovery of 2021, not knowing it was just the EDP version of Opium. I thought it was a flanker. I thought it was a different fragrance. And Opium is this clove, incense, resinous, myrrh. There's plum that makes it a little bit fruity. There's plum and peach, which make this a little bit fruity, but it's almost like, if you drop a fruit in, a bucket of sticky resins, and the fruit may float for a second before it kind of sinks to the bottom. That's what I get in this. It starts out with some citruses and some fruitiness, but boy, the resinous aspects just eat this up. And there's Tolu balsam, Apopanax, benzoin, labdanum, amber, castoreum, myrrh, incense. It is so very good, and it's worthy to be in the top 10. It's the only women's fragrance. Well, actually, I take that back. I think there's one other that is targeted towards women initially, before it was put into a different collection. But man, Opium is a blessing. I'm so glad to have 3 bottles of this, 2 of the Secret de Parfum and 1 of the EDT. Okay, now we're gonna go to maybe my favorite fragrance of all time. And as you can see, I like daring fragrances. What I'm picking, I'm not picking fragrances that are chill, sit back, relax. I'm picking daring, heavy, in-your-face fragrances. You can kind of get a feel for what I like, my personal style. And this is Kouros by Pierre Bourdon, YSL. It's amazing that a designer house used to put stuff like this out in the old days. This is a Parfums quart bottle, and I'm working on trying to secure a Charles of the Ritz. I'm not going to tell you I have it secured yet, because I don't, and I don't want to jinx it, but I am looking into trying to get a Charles of the Ritz bottle, because it feels like that's a big hole in my collection. But this is one of the most animalic fragrances ever. The civet and aldehydes and honey are just, to me, they're to die for, because the only way I can describe it is that it touches a part of your brain that you don't know how to use or how to access, if that makes sense. This is so primal. You think about the old reptilian brain that the mammalian brain built on top of, and it has that fight or flight feature built in. This touches somewhere ancient. That's the only way I can describe it. It touches an ancient part of the human brain that moves me in a way that maybe only Diaghilev, moves me in the same way as Kouros. It is, it's dirty. It's also overtly sexual, just like Diaghilev. There's this big civet, huge civet, one of the best civet notes of all time in this perfume. In fact, it's so big that Pierre Bourdon thought it was unwearable. He thought no one would wear this. Who could walk around smelling like this? And if you walk around the modern world smelling like this, you very well may get a little bit, these two are two peas in a pod. Even though this didn't make the top 10, these two are brothers in a way. They don't smell the same, but they're brothers. I think most people might think Lapidus Pour Homme is a little bit easier to wear, but I love Kouros more. It is, I mean, how can you describe something like this to somebody? I don't know if I have the verbiage to. As long as you can find one with the silver shoulders, you're good. There are different versions, and obviously I'm talking about Charles of the Ritz. But as long as you can find an older bottle that has this silver shoulders here and not white all the way up, you're good. You got one of the good ones. Scoop them up now. They don't sell this in North America anymore. So Kouros, again, this is not a ranked list. This is just 10 of my favorite fragrances to wear. And then, of course, after Kouros, you have to mention this, Antaeus, Darth Vader. Dun, dun, dun. It is, this is another one. This is also probably a little bit more wearable than Kouros because it has that Chanel classiness, but underneath it all is that same dirtiness. It's just done with castoreum instead of civet. So it's a different dirtiness. This is Jacques Polge and Francois Demachy. It starts with resinous myrrh, which I love, and then it goes into this castoreum, oak moss, patchouli, labdanum thing that just is to die for. Again, I cherish every minute of wearing these type of fragrances. I just love it. And then the next day I wear something else that I usually don't love as much, but the fact that I don't wear these fragrances every day makes when I do that much more special. And Antaeus has to be there. I love my leathers, and one of the best leather fragrances of all time. Speaking of best leather fragrances of all time, let's go to probably the most cherished bottle in my collection. If you've been watching my videos, you know what's coming. Trying to get the fingerprints off so Eugene doesn't chastise me. Okay, come on, baby. There we go. All right, so this is the one and only Cuir de Russie by Chanel. Now, this is another one I struggled with. Do I put this in the top 10? Do I put Balenciaga? Do I put Lapidus? Do I put Le Lion? Is Le Lion a better fragrance than Cuir de Russie? You could argue both ways, but I went for this because it's the first thing I thought of. And this is one of the rarest versions of Cuir de Russie because this is a 1980s bottle. They don't sell it in this bottle anymore. They sell it in the Les Exclusifs bottle, which looks like this. Well, first they made it in an EDT. The only way you can tell is the back. It actually says EDT or EDP right there on the back side of the label. And they discontinued the EDT. Now they only make this in an EDP. So I've heard that it's much more floral than what is put out in this bottle. I sent Rich Mitch a sample here. He should do a comparison video. He said this is much more leathery, animalic. This also has this dirtiness to it, but it's from like birch and heliotrope and tobacco. It gives off this strange dirtiness, almost like a horse stable, like you're riding in a carriage kind of thing, you know? I think of Anastasia in the Russian palace when I wear this. And I'm so lucky to have a bottle of this because this is a huge gem in my collection. Probably the rarest and most sought after bottle in my collection is this one, this Cuir de Russie. And then two more. and they're both Guerlains. I had to include these. One is my favorite Guerlain for women, and one is my favorite Guerlain for men, and I left out Habit Rouge. I feel terrible leaving it out. I didn't even include it in the, it got close to my favorite fragrances, but because for me, it's all about Heritage. Heritage is my favorite masculine ever created. This is the early 90s. And it does, you know, if I just wanted to wear an everyday driver that hit that spot, that special spot, look, there's a heart on my shirt right there. If I just wanted to wear something that hits that my heart, but an everyday driver that you could wear every day and not feel like you're out of place anywhere, because sometimes you'll probably feel a little strange wearing stuff like Kouros in the day-to-day world, it would be Heritage. Heritage is, you know, it harkens back to fragrances like Givenchy, like Habit Rouge, and then it also even looks forward to Guerlain's future endeavors, like L'Instant de Guerlain. This foreshadows it. The patchouli in this foreshadows the patchouli in L'Instant de Guerlain. And I love this fragrance. You know, I didn't even consider some of the fragrances that I consider close to this, like, you know, I get vibes of YSL Jazz. I get vibes of Escada Pour Homme. But to me, this is the gold standard. I have a backup bottle of this. And Jean-Paul Guerlain's best masculine for me is Heritage. The last one should be no surprise. I could not include it in a top 10. If any of these was going to be removed, it would probably be, I don't know, I can't talk about removing one of the top 10, but I love wearing this fragrance, even though it's a woman's targeted release from the 1920s. This is the Parfum de Toilette version that's discontinued, but it's Shalimar. Shalimar has to be here. It's the best vanilla ever. I mean, it's the first vanilla, and it's the best vanilla, in my opinion. This also has a little bit of dirtiness to it. I don't know if you're seeing a theme here, but it's really hitting me as I'm talking about all of these. But this has this vanilla, but it has this, it's almost like a dirty vanilla because of the incense and the civet. I think there's even castoreum here, although it's not listed in Fragrantica. There's this resinous myrrh apopanax thing going on. But the biggest thing is bergamot in the top, sparkling bergamot in the top, with iris and patchouli and vetiver and all that stuff in the mid. And then you get right down to the base of incense, vanilla. There's even leather in this, although no one considers this a leather perfume. It does have a leather note. Civet, apopanax. I mean, it's my favorite vanilla, hands down. It speaks to me. I feel like I'm wearing something special when I wear this. Like I'm wearing a part of fragrance history, if that makes sense. So Guerlain Shalimar rounds up the top 10. Let me know what your top 10 are. I know I make fun of people doing top 10 videos, so you probably won't see very many top 10 videos from me, especially since I've been bashing people on Fragcom doing nothing but top 10s. But this one feels a little bit different. It feels a little bit special, a little bit more personal. Yeah, let me know what you think. I obviously left some bangers out. Polo Green didn't even get talked about. You know, some of my all-time favorites. You can't include everything, but I did want to give you an idea of my top 10 and where I'm at. And these are not ranked. So my goal is for next year, when 2023 rolls around, my first video of 2023, I'm going to try to rank these, or close to the first video of 2023 will be a ranked top 10 list. Where I'll put these in order. And that's going to be, I'm going to pull my hair out doing that. So anyways, thank you for watching. Do comment. And I love seeing your faces down below. Cheers. And we'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye-bye.